In 2023, I applied for the Mandela Washington Fellowship for the second year in a row after my initial application was unsuccessful. I was preparing for my interview and then I was informed that I was actually disqualified. Today I'm going to tell you how that came to be. But first I need to make sure we're on the same page. So let me tell you what the Mandela Washington Fellowship is. The Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders is the flagship program of the US government's Young African Leaders Initiative, or YALI. The fellowship was established in 2014 under President Obama's administration, and each year the fellowship provides up to 700 outstanding young leaders from sub-Saharan Africa with the opportunity to hone their skills at a US higher education institution in the fields of business, civic engagement, or public management. So my brief history with the Mandela Washington Fellowship, I came to find out about it, I would say maybe 2 or 3 years ago. When the time came, as in when I was of age, I would apply. That didn't end up happening. I actually applied early. So I applied when I was officially 24 years old. For context, the fellowship really is for 25 to 35-year-olds. However, there is a clause in the eligibility that says 21 to 24-year-olds with outstanding, can't remember the adjective they use, I'll come back to that, applications would be considered as well. So I was like, okay, not me self-disqualifying when I'm always preaching that you shouldn't do that. Let them decide if my application is outstanding. Long story short, my application was unsuccessful. I wasn't too disheartened again because I thought, I did apply early. I have 10 years to go. While waiting in agony for the results of my initial application, I do remember coming across the reader's guide, so like the people who go through the applications and like shortlist people, and I do remember seeing a clause that said something to the effect of, if you come across an application from somebody who's 21 to 24, don't give their applications too much attention because they'll have so many more opportunities to apply when they're of age. And in the same breath, the readers were kind of encouraged to pay a bit more attention to applicants who were aged 33 through 35. Again, don't quote me. I remember seeing something to the effect of, if you are to select 21 to 24-year-olds, these candidates should make up less than 10% of the overall group. So after I read that, I was like, okay, it's probably not going to happen this year. I do want to mention why I applied early. Honestly, it seemed fun. I was at a stage where I could go and gallivant in the States over the summer for 6 weeks. And I knew looking forward, when I got a more solid, full-time non-flexible job. I don't know what all the applicants who do get selected do, what their arrangement is with their boss. I do kind of think to myself that, going to a boss and being like, by the way, can I leave for 6 weeks in the summer to go and do a fellowship in the States and then I'm going to come back, wouldn't be the easiest of conversations and wouldn't be the easiest of arrangements. But just in terms of practicality, I was like, this is really the perfect year for me to do this. Of course, I was not selected. My application was unsuccessful, so that was that. I had every intention of applying again until I was successful, and I guess that's what brings me here to my channel today to tell you all about how that went for me. A bit about my situation. I had moved back to Zimbabwe just before my initial application, where I remained until August of 2023. For reference, the Mandela Washington Fellowship applications open around August, September. And I knew I was going to apply again. So I, began my application while still in Zimbabwe. But in that period between starting my application and submitting my application, I moved to Hong Kong, not for tourism, but for a job. So I'm actually a resident here. It was all very hectic at the beginning. I had just started my new job. I had just moved into my apartment. And on top of this, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get my Mandela Washington Fellowship in. I remember spending all day of a Saturday, sometime in September, just doing my essays. I looked very serious. I had papers all around this cafe table, and I literally stayed there for hours, which is not always encouraged in Hong Kong. They don't really like this culture of lingering around cafes. I remember also, getting home from work and just working on my essays again and making sure that I got that application in on time. And as I do with all of my other applications, once I submitted its history, I, put it down on my list of pending applications and I forget about it. Anyway, in the back of my mind, I knew what the timeline was from last year, where I was much more hyperfixated on the results of the fellowship. And I knew that around November through January, you start hearing back if you are shortlisted for an interview. The way it happened was really strange. So I checked my emails first thing in the morning, but for some reason or the other, I missed it. And then later on in the day, during like one of my breaks, I decided to go check my emails again. And I'd seen that I had actually opened this email, but I clearly hadn't registered. And I was like, who's that? I can actually read for you the email verbatim. Okay, so the subject line of the email was Mandela Washington Fellowship interview, December 12th, 2023. Good afternoon. Congratulations on your strong Mandela Washington Fellowship application. We have selected you to proceed to the interview stage. We would like to invite you to a virtual 20-minute interview on December 12th, 2023. Please check the following link and choose a time slot that is convenient for you so that we can go ahead and schedule your interview. Please select your time slot urgently, as I cannot schedule you unless and until you have made your selection on the provided Google Calendar link. I will send out the calendar appointments and a link for a Microsoft Teams interview this week, and you'll need to have Microsoft Teams app on your phone or participate in the interview on a computer. Please also ensure that you have your passport or national ID ready to show us at the beginning of the interview. With the power cuts and internet slowdowns, please ensure that you are also available and have data on WhatsApp as a backup plan should we need to switch platforms. And then they gave me a list of the questions to help me prepare, and I will be sharing those on a different video. And yeah, I got back to the civil servant from the US Embassy in Zimbabwe with the quickness. Of course, for me, being in Hong Kong at the time, I had to make sure that the time zones aligned. At this time, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that it's a virtual interview, because of course, if it was in person, I'd have to, in my head, I thought I'd have to make alternative arrangements, like I'm not actually in Zimbabwe at the moment, can we do a virtual interview? From there, as with all of my other applications, if I get shortlisted, I go into full-blown preparation mode. From the time that I heard from them, I had about maybe give or take 2 weeks until the actual interview date. Yeah, I had made like a plan and like a system where I would be doing like 30 minutes to an hour of interview prep every day. To be very honest, I was really excited for my interview, which I need to mention because most of the times I'm feeling more nervous than excited. And of course, being the delusional person that I am, I started preparing for my summer in the States. I was like, okay, we're gonna do Cali, we're gonna do New York. I was so excited, and I have so many friends in the States, so I was really excited to see them. I didn't tell many people because I don't think you should tell many people until things are done. Anyway, so as I mentioned, I was preparing for this interview every day, 30 minutes to an hour, and the one day I was just about to start my preparation for the day, something told me open your emails, and lo and behold, I received another email, which I wasn't expecting, and I'm going to read the email to you verbatim. Dear Lamia, good morning. I write as a follow-up to my earlier communication regarding the Mandela Washington Fellowship interviews. Having gone through your application, it appears you are not based in Zimbabwe or any sub-Saharan Africa country, and this therefore makes you ineligible for the interviews. I apologize for the oversight and any arising inconvenience. Not necessarily on my bingo card for the year 2023. So yeah, I was gutted. I was really disappointed. I think it's tough when you are like almost there. I always think that's just the worst, than like just a clean-cut rejection. I feel like those are the ones that really get you in your feels. And actually, one of my friends who happens to be American said something so profound, and he was really able to put into words what I was feeling and couldn't articulate. He basically said it's just so like crushing because you miss out on so many opportunities because of being Zimbabwean, and because you're in Zimbabwe, now you're missing out on an opportunity because you're no longer in Zimbabwe. And yeah, to keep it real with you guys, I think it felt especially crushing because I genuinely feel like I have all that I do as a Zimbabwean passport holder, someone who was born and raised there. I have all the disadvantages that come with being Zimbabwean, and the one time there was something shiny and something glittery that I had access to as a result of being Zimbabwean, and it didn't quite go through again for that very nationality situation little thing. Yeah, it's crushing. It's really disappointing. It's frustrating. I did not know that this was the eligibility, but also I need to remind you that when I began my application, I was in Zimbabwe. It didn't even like cross my mind that anything should change. Of course, in my head, I was thinking, okay, like I can just fly back to Zimbabwe if I must fly from Zimbabwe to the States. Made sure that I did my due diligence, went to go and check, and yeah, the civil servant who was communicating with me was absolutely right. This is the criteria. If you look at the frequently asked questions, there's something to do with what if I'm not currently based in Africa. And yeah, she was spot on with this. My bad, I guess. I wished them well for their search for the next Mandela Washington Fellows from Zimbabwe. And then I moved on with my life. And for better or for worse, I really am one of those people who believes that everything happens for a reason. And that is the story of how I went from shortlisted to disqualified in a matter of weeks for Africa's biggest fellowship. I imagine by now many people, I can't remember the timeline, would be maybe being informed about whether they've been selected for this year. I do want to say, if that's you, if you've applied this year, or if you're watching this in the distant future, yeah, you guys, this is an incredible opportunity. And I would say, obviously don't do what I did. If you're not based in Africa, don't waste your time into the application, you'll be ineligible. But a great opportunity. Even though I was disqualified, I have nothing but love for this fellowship. Will I ever apply again? That is another video. I really will do another video answering that. If you have been selected this year, I will be with you in spirit, and it's going to be epic. It's going to be amazing. And yeah, best of luck if you intend to apply for the Mandela Washington Fellowship. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, I think it would be great if you could stay. I make videos under the themes of education, global citizenship, and sustainable development. And also, there will be other videos in this Mandela Washington series. And I hope to see you there.